Hello, Cats and Kittens. Hola, Jose, Yaroshua. I'm back in the Crisis Corner giving my impressions of She-Hulk Attorney at Law on Disney Plus, Marvel, Disney Plus, whatever you want to call it. I was looking forward to this series. I'm a huge She-Hulk fan, as you can see, especially the She-Hulk run of John Byrne in the late 80s, I think to early 90s. He did a fantastic job on that book. He took a tier two character and raised her up, maybe not to tier one, but gave She Hulk her own niche. Whereas originally she was created as a redundancy to the Hulk, the Savage She Hulk, which went nowhere in the 70s. Uh, it was canceled relatively quickly and forgotten until Burns raised her back up. And from then on, she was on the Avengers and stuff like that, you know. But he did a good job of giving her a niche and and really letting her shine in her own right. Now the MCU is trying to resurrect that character and give you content on their streaming service as a result. So I mean, it's a play for content. It seems like, which is fine. That's what they're doing. They're in the business of providing content for their streaming service, and they're pulling She-Hulk out to serve that purpose. The early word was that it was a Ally McBeal ish type uh, show with superheroes. I didn't actually watch Ally McBeal, for obvious reasons. I say that anyway. Well, I didn't watch Ally McBeal. That's just the way it is. So, um, but I get it. I read She-Hulk, so I understand the character and I understand what they're trying to do with it. On the whole, I would say, um, well, let me do this blow for blow. The story opens with Jennifer Walters, attorney, rehearsing her opening statement for a trial that takes place at the end of the episode. Within that opening bit, before they get to the flashback, you can get some general impressions. A, that she's an attorney, obviously, that she's an up and coming attorney. She has her paralegal, Nikki, who is apparently her close friend and her hype man, so to speak. Says she's amazing and stuff like that, and gives her props quickly, whereas her co-counsel, Dennis, is, in my opinion, only there to establish that men are trash. While she's rehearsing her statement, he's whispering these little criticisms of what she's doing, which is, disrespectful or whatever. But he's of the opinion that he should give the opening statement. It would sound better coming from him. We don't establish why he would say that it would sound better coming from him. It is inferred because he's a man, I guess. But it's not stated whether they're rivals. Is he skilled? Are they comparable? Are they up and coming rivals? I don't know. He just says that he could do it better than her, which is whatever. So as she finishes and is getting ready to go into the courtroom, she comes back, breaks a fourth wall, which is, like I say, often done in the comics in the 80s and whatever, and intros the flashback as to how she got her powers. So I thought that opening bit was cool. It was a good entry point and a good lead into the flashback. Now, when you get to the flashback, you start to get some issues. But anyway, she's on the road with Mark Ruffalo, Bruce Banner. Apparently, they came together to go on a road trip together, which is fine. And they're having this little banter back and forth. She's like virgin shaming Steve Rogers, or just bringing up whether or not he's a virgin for some reason. I don't know. and they get into a car crash because an alien spaceship blocks their path or just appears in front of them. They skid off the road and crash. Now, in the comics, obviously, or if you don't know, it was a bit more complicated situation, whereas there was gangsters involved, and Jennifer got shot. Bruce gave her a blood transplant. The drug blood transplant, with his irradiated blood, turned her into Shield. In this case, they're borrowing from the Incredible Hulk theme that if you are touched, I'm not sure how it works, but if if Hulk blood gets on you or gets into an open wound, you become contaminated and turn into a Hulk. Now, in the Incredible Hulk, it seemed a little bit more arbitrary because when Stan Lee's cameo, it wasn't that it got into an open wound. He just drank some soda that had some of his blood in it, and he turned into a. Well, I think it was off camera, but he transformed. They need to establish which is it. Is it blood, Hulk blood getting into an open wound, Hulk blood touching skin in any way, or what? Because one of the features of the Hulk, especially from the comics, and even well, especially from the comics, is he has a fast healing. He has a healing factor, but that also implies that he can take damage. That he takes damage and he bleeds, so he can bleed a lot. That's not a problem. He'll heal from it. But if any amount of his blood touching anyone could turn them into a Hulk, then going forward, he can't bleed at all, which is, I guess, great for Marvel because they don't like showing blood anyway. But it's problematic to me. You know what I mean? Which is it? For the sake of this story, the blood gets on Jennifer into a wound that she already had from the car crash. The car crash itself is actually a callback to the 70s Bill Bixby series where uh, David Banner couldn't save his wife who died in a car crash. He didn't have the strength to help save her from the car crash, and that was his big regret. They caused him to uh, experiment on himself with gamma radiation, blah blah blah, whatever. Now in this case, Jennifer saves her cousin from this car crash. Oh man! So she saves her cousin from the car crash, and then gets irradiated and turns into a Hulk. Anyway, from there you get into this point where she turns into Hulk, runs off into the woods. Next time you see her, she'll change back to Jennifer Walters, and she goes into to this bar. She's looking at, she's dirty and got blood on or whatever. So she goes into this restroom to clean herself up. Now, as she's doing so, these hookers apparently come in there and see that she's been damaged or wounded to some extent. And I guess their reaction is to put makeup on her, dress up like a hooker, and put her back on the stroll. Maybe they thought that she was a hooker as well. I don't know. Because, nobody tried to call a doctor, nobody called the police for somebody that seemed to have been wounded. Their first reaction was to put makeup on her and give her some hooker clothes and send her back on her way. They're very helpful. They're extremely helpful. She asked for a cell phone. Everybody pull out their cell phone. They're very, very helpful people. Okay, juxtapose that on the way out. She's waiting for Bruce to come pick her up, and these three, I guess, would-be rapists was waiting outside, and as soon as they see her, they start hitting on her, for whatever reason, Maybe they thought she was a hooker. I don't know. Anyway, they offer her what she considers to be some, unwelcome advances, which trigger her. But before she can kill them, I guess, for their impertinence, Bruce comes by and sweeps her away. Or at least we see him grab her to some extent and, I guess, wrestle her down, whatever. So apparently she doesn't hurt the fellas for their offense. She just he whisked her away, and she wakes up in Mexico in Bruce's hideaway. Okay, from there in Mexico, we get to the whole explanation of what's going on. Bruce explains to her that, she's been tainted by his blood, but apparently her blood is of such quality or something that it helped him heal his arm, which was still recovering from Endgame, and help him maintain his transformation because of blood. And she said, because I'm better than you, which is some nonsense or whatever. Again, there's some weird stuff going on here. Bruce tells her that it takes like 15 years, and she's going to begin a 15-year journey of learning to control her abilities, to come to terms with her abilities. Because, in all honesty, Hulks are destructive things. As far as she should know from his history, that he's caused a lot of damage. The whole thing, Sokovia Accords and not Sokovia Accords, but the all that stuff from Avengers 2, where he went off in Africa and was wrecking people left and right. She should have that in her mind, but she just wants to go back to being a lawyer. She didn't think much of it, and she wants to just go back to her life, which is weird because in the comics, Jennifer Walters liked being She-Hulk more than she did being Jennifer Walters. She wanted to go to join the Avengers and the Fantastic Four and do all that kind of stuff. So they kind of flipped that. She doesn't want any part of it. She just wants to go back to being a lawyer. Bruce's thing is that, again, you have to learn to control your emotions, your rage or whatever. Otherwise, you could do a lot of damage. But for some reason, he seems intent on her being a hero, to me, which is more of a earned, or it's just because you have the potential to be a hero doesn't mean that should be your first priority. I would have felt more comfortable with him saying, just slow down, let's get a handle on this, and then you decide what it is that you want to do. I think some of that was kind of forced dialogue-wise. But anyway, she's, she doesn't want to, give up her life to be a Hulk or a hero or whatever, so she just wants to go back and be a lawyer. So that gets us to the point where he has to run tests on her to find out, what her thresholds are or whatever. And there's some cringy bits in there. One part that I did, like one joke that I actually think landed pretty well. It's a small thing, but as he's about to find out what work on her triggers, what is it that triggers her to turn into the Hulk? And she suggests a Pixar movie. I thought that was funny because Pixar movies have a profound effect on me. Pixar is the best. Anyway, so he brings out the fact. What's this cringy line about, the triggers being anger and fear? And she says that's the baseline for any woman existing. I'm not a woman, so you have to tell me. To me, that sounds like nonsense, But again, this wasn't necessarily written for me. So women, y'all got to figure that out amongst yourselves. But he does attempt to trigger fear in her, and it does, cause the reaction of her turning from Jennifer Walters into the Hulk. But then it turns out that she can do that at will, which I can go either way with, because one of the things that the series dismisses is that all of this Marvel series, none of them really focus on the fact that Bruce Banner has multiple personality disorder based on childhood trauma. First of all, he was directly exposed to the gamma bomb, in this case, whatever that thing happened in the Incredible Hulk. I can't remember exactly how it went down. But by the fact that he was directly affected by the process and has emotional trauma from his past. Ang Lee actually tried to get into that in the first Hulk movie to varying amounts of success. I thought it was cool, but whatever. But this dude has multiple personality issues that don't have anything to do with, oh, they run parallel with the gamma radiation thing. And he's got like 4, 5, 6 different personas at this point in the comics. Some weirder than others, but none of that comes into play in the MCU. So now it's looking like Jen can just control hers better than him because whatever, you know what I mean? But the multiple personality, the Hulk persona is unique to him for a reason. But that's been swept under the rug. So now he's jealous of her being able to change back and forth at will. Okay, then they go into, I mean, Jen comes off entirely too smug. But that's not necessarily a bad thing if she runs into the consequences of that at some point. You know, being overly smug or being, whatever is not necessarily a bad character trait if you have to deal with the consequences of it. You know, if you always think you're right, when you find out that you're wrong, yeah, you can grow from that. But it's not dealt with that way. It's just that she's smug and she is right to be smug, I guess. He puts her through the paces with various tests and drills, and she doesn't have any problem with it. Why? I don't know. I mean, if you woke up in the morning and you went from being a 100-pound weakling to a 250-pound uh, monster in peak physical health, you would have to adapt to that. You know, it's nice to be bigger and stronger, but you're not used to it. So you would have to adapt to that. So you're going from being just a regular sized little woman to being an overpowered creature. Shouldn't you have some moment of adjustment? No, there's not. So I think they dropped the ball on that. Let me see what else they got. I thought the bit where he wakes her up in the morning with the air horn, I thought that was funny. Uh, that was before they started doing the test, like the boulder test and all of that stuff. Tossing the boulders around and doing the ground pounding the ground thing or whatever, all of which she is good at, which irritates Bruce. Again, I don't really, I don't feel that. Again, that's putting her into the, Mary Sue type range, which doesn't need to be done. There's no need for that. That's all I'm saying. Anyway, let's see what else. Bruce, again, he stresses the fact that heroes need to be able to manage their anger, and Jen counters that being a woman makes her better. I thought this was an interesting point. He says hero had to manage their anger. She says being a woman, apparently having to deal with catcalls and all of those things, makes her better suited to deal with anger and rage than Bruce. I think that was a missed opportunity. I think they could have tied that into her profession. Being unhinged and stressed and angered as a lawyer. It's like playing poker. If you're showing your hand and you don't think clearly, you can give away a tell or something like that. Or being a lawyer, if you don't think clearly all the time, if you're not restrained or in control, that could be a detriment to your clients. I think they missed on that just to go for this whole feminist whatever thing. In my opinion, I could be wrong. Anyway, no, I think I'm right on that one. I think it would have been a better play to use being a lawyer as being a reason why she would be good at controlling her emotions, being a good lawyer anyway. But there's that. So from there, uh, they eventually they get into this fight, which is it's okay. I don't I don't think it was necessary, but the fight ends with Bruce's bar getting destroyed, and they call it quits at that point, and just they kind of cool out. And Bruce relents and says, "Well, if you want to go on to being a lawyer, I won't stop you." So that's the end of that, and it takes us back to the flashback where she goes into the court. Now she's about to deliver her concluding statement, and for some reason, Titania bursts in for no reason that we're made aware of. Jennifer transforms as She-Hulk, Saitama's her, boom, it's all. And that's it, essentially. So, essentially, my conclusion is the acting I thought was good. I don't think that there are bad acting performances here. Uh, Tatiana, I forget her last name, as Jennifer Walters, I think she does a good job. I just don't agree with all of the lines that they put in her mouth. But she herself, I think, is a good Jennifer Walters. Banner is there, Ruffalo, he's there to put her over. First, he's a MacGuffin to get her powers. Then, after she gets her powers, I mean, in WWE style, you use the your reigning champ to put over the new guy that you're bringing up. So he's there to put her over. That's all. That's the best way I can look at it. He's simply there to put her over. All right. But here's the problem. Usually you can put somebody over. You can bring in new talent and put them over without diminishing your reigning champ or whoever you're using to put that person over. Again, thinking about wrestling. But you know that you're going to need that champ, so you don't bring them down too low. You know what I'm saying? At this point, I think Hulk is like Thor, he's ruined. I mean, you're never going to get World War Hulk. That character at this current point in the MCU is not useful. He's not what the Hulk should be or could be. So he's done. At this point, you can use one of them, but you can't use both. And at this point, the way that things are right now, I would go ahead and use Jennifer because the Hulk is effectively ruined. You might even need to kill him off at some point because he's not useful. The Hulk is, I mean, yeah, that's all I'm saying. In my mind, the Hulk is dead. He's soy Hulk right now. He's not anything that anybody's scared of or worried about, which is essential to his character. He is one of the most threatening characters, just in terms of potential damage that he can inflict. He is a wild card. He's not one of them dudes that's just like, on call. Hey, Hulk, come save us. No, that's not what he is. That's not what the Hulk. That's not to me how the Hulk should be used. But again, that's irrelevant to the comics. But this ain't the comics, so you can look at that a few ways. I thought the humor was 50-50 at best. Some hit, some jokes hit, some didn't. Like I said, the Pixar thing worked for me. The air horn worked for me. A couple of the fourth wall breaks, I think, hit for me, especially at the beginning. And I'm trying to think of the jokes. Yeah, I'd say it was 50-50 at best. The stakes are low, obviously, but that's not even an issue because this is a comedy that's not supposed to be high stakes anyway. The show is not written for me. It's written in a, I guess, I hate to use the word, but a feminist type angle. But then again, I'm curious. I mean, any women that would chime in on this, let me know. Does the writing of the show work for you? Does the dudes outside the bar being, predators just off the break coming after Jennifer, does that seem logical to you or just natural? Or the hookers in the bathroom. That was baffling to me. I don't even get that. Not seeing somebody that's been injured and in rough shape and trying to put makeup on them and giving them some hooker shoes and I don't know. Anyway, relative to the comics, to me, relative to the comics that I grew up reading, and even recently, some of them that I read, the show was not good. It's not horrible, but it ain't good relative to that. Relative to the MCU, maybe it's okay. What else? I say Hulk and She-Hulk should not share the stage. Going forward, I think it should just roll with Jennifer and leave it there. Find some way to send him back into space or something. I don't know. CGI I thought was sketchy, but it was better than I thought it would be. Or it's not as bad as I thought it would be. I put it that way. And I'll keep watching. I'll keep watching the show until it's not watchable. But they have to get off of the. At least this is a show where I'm not going to mind the humor because I know it's coming. But they got to get off some of this man bashing stuff because it's a turnoff. And I'm in the tank for the character. You know what I'm saying? I love She-Hulk. You know, legit. You know what I'm saying? I ain't a normie on this. I'm in the tank for the character, and you're turning me off. You know. So there's that. That's my impressions. Let me know what you think, especially from any female standpoint. Does this kind of stuff work for you? Because I don't even think it does. I mean, they're trying to. You can't elevate women by dragging men to the ground. And that's what I feel is going on in a lot of instances. Especially when you have your A-list type characters. They already done it with Thor, and now Hulk is pretty much ruined. So that's all I can say. Let me know what you think. Until next time, stay loose.